There is a common phrase that people today repeat often, a common way of expression, that the awareness, or living by this awareness, that every yid's a tzaddik, every person is a tzaddik, every person is a righteous person, a holy person, a complete person. And in fact, many years ago, in Reclaiming the Self, or Derech HaTshuva, explored this idea versus a person thinking of himself as a tzaddik already, so imagining himself or living from a place of their perfection, versus a person thinking of himself as broken and living from a place of brokenness, and how it's always beneficial to think of yourself coming from that place of your wholeness, of your soul, the place of your perfection, where you have a chelik elakad, a divine spark, a divine part within you, and live from that place of your wholeness. And the phrase is famously "V'amech kulam tzadikim," and your entire nation is tzadikim. Kol Yisrael yesh lam chelik l'olam haba. All of Israel receives a portion of the world to come. And the Mishnah says "V'amech kulam tzadikim" because the entire people are called tzadikim, righteous. Now, of course, this does not necessarily mean the way it's translated always, that it's specifically talking about the individual people, because as the Mishnah Sanhedrin continues, it actually says, and these are the ones that don't have a part in the portion of the world to come, which means that it's not a statement on individuals, it's more a statement on the collective. There's a principal idea that ain't tzibur mesa, the collective doesn't die, or tumo hutra b'tzibur, the collective doesn't experience impurity. It's not chuy, but it's hutra. The idea that the collective is pure, the collective is eternal. There's a shorish and neshama, the source of souls, which is called Kol Yisrael, the Yachad b'Shem Kol Yisrael, the name of the collective of Kol Yisrael. That in the collective nation of Klal Yisrael, of the people of Israel, there's a state of tzidkus, a state of righteousness, of holiness, of perfection. But individually, maybe not. This is one important thing to understand, and maybe to get a little bit deeper into this idea. But the second issue is that once you say that you are identifying yourself, and this is the criticism of this paradigm, is once you identify yourself as a tzaddik, and I identify myself as someone that's complete and whole and already achieved on top of the mountain, so to speak, someone already achieved what I have to achieve in this world. So then, why should I desire? Why should I yearn? Why should I work? Why should I do anything? If I'm perfect and I'm whole, so theoretically, a person says, I need to daven. Let's say I need to pray, but I'm perfect already. So why should I daven? Or I need to do this mitzvah. Why should I do this mitzvah? I'm already perfect already. So that's the flip side of this. Let's try to understand this. I think it's thrown around in a very superficial and trivial way, and there's depth to this understanding, but it's a little bit deeper, and through understanding the subtle differences, it'll become much more clear what exactly does this mean and how this means, because this is certainly in the teachings of Torah Chassidus and teachings of the Baal Shem Tov and the old Chassidic rabbis that follow the Baal Shem Tov, Torah Chassidus. This is certainly a foundation, the understanding that every person has this purity, this wholeness, and to try to recognize this. So the idea is to live your better life from a place of your perfection. So not only is this because this is a better way of living and a more wholesome way of living and a more way to be engaged with yourself and the world and people around you from a more wholesome and holy way, but as we're getting closer to the end of times, as we're getting closer to the tachlis shamayim va'aretz, the end of creation, so to speak, the Yom Shekuli Tov, when things will be revealed in the day when everything will become good. So since we're getting closer to that place, and since, like the Rambam famously writes, Seifim Lasas Tshuva, that eventually we will all collectively, all individually, reach a state of tshuva, a state of return, a state of perfection, a state of wholeness. Tashav al Hashem will return to that place of that wholeness. And eventually, lo yidach imenu nidach, that everyone, even the wayward, those who are lost, will return to their place. Bein begilgul zeh, bein begilgul acher, if it was this through this incarnation or the next incarnation, eventually through the process of the various reincarnations of souls, eventually all souls will reach its perfection back into Adam Kadmon. So since we're getting closer to this idea of the tachlis, where the end is revealed, since we're getting closer to the end revealed, we're connected more to that oil, more to that light of that perfection. So as we're getting closer to the future, to the tachlis, the end becomes more revealed in the process of getting there. So to make this a little bit more clear, what this means is as follows, and this is very important, and is how we think about this, how we think about what it means to live from a place of your perfection, to live from a place that you're a tzaddik, and say that I see you, the way the Alter Rebbe once said, that I see a person the way they exist with an Adam Kadmon, in the primordial being, in their state of perfection, in their place of their actualization of their potential. So one is a simple level, or a more simple level, is to say that there are different parts of myself. There's a part of myself that is the imperfect part of self, and then there's a part of myself that's the perfect part of self. There's the Chetzi and the Shalom, the way Abalafia writes about it, and then later, certainly the way the Chassidic Rebbes write about it, that there's different parts of myself to identify with my Nefesh HaBahamis, with my animal soul, with my lower soul, with my more constricted state of consciousness, which the Baal HaKeder writes that that's the definition of the Yetzer Hara. The evil inclination is something that's seeing things within a very fragmented and immediate way, the immediate gratification of something. Or do I see things in the larger picture, from a place of more of my wholeness? And that's really a question to identify. But then there's even a deeper way of understanding this. And this is as follows. And with this deeper understanding of what it means to live from your place of your tzaddik, of a place of your perfection, it would also help understand why there's still work to be done. Even though, paradoxically, if I say I'm already whole, there's nothing to be done but to understand this. Because if I'm already whole, so then why should I do anything? Why should I strive? Why should I become better? So there's two ways how to think about this. And it's generally a question of when a person thinks about there's a process, there's a means, and then there's an end. There's a tahalich, which is a process, and the idea of like galus, exile is gal, which is a wave, which is a process. We're moving towards, there's a separation, and we're moving towards a certain direction, towards a certain tachlis. There is 6 days of the week which we strive, we aspire, and we move, and we further things along. And then there's Shabbos, which represents the miniature form of Kol Malachta Chasuya, that everything is done. We reach a place of perfection. So there's this delicate balance between, or dichotomy between the place of movement, of process, and then there's a place where we finally get to the place of the presence, which is Shabbos. The same thing also within creation itself. There is the process of creation, which is the Galus, which is to get to a place of the Tachlis, to the end result, which is Tachlis Shemayim Va'aretz, the end result, which is the revealing of Hashem's presence in this world, and the Geula, the idea of redemption, where we can take the Aleph of redemption, of Alufa Shel Olam, which is of the Creator's light, and draw it and put it within the process of the Gal. That becomes Go'al, becomes redemption, becomes a redemptive state. So there's two ways. There's the process, and then there's the result, the end. There's the Tahalich and the Tachlis. To say a little differently, there's the means, and then there's the end. And there's two ways how to think about this, and there's a subtle distinction, and it's an important distinction. And there's also two ways how to think about this in terms of also living in the present, not just living for the now, but living in the now, how that translates in living in the now. One way of thinking about it is that the means is the end. The journey itself is the destination. That's one way of thinking about it. But that essentially is actually kfira. That essentially is heresy, because then what you're saying is that there is no tachlis. You're saying that there is no end. There is no end game. It's the means itself is the end game. The journey itself is the destination. But then you're saying there is no grand picture. There's no movement in history. History doesn't have to get to a certain place. The means itself is the end. So when a person says, I want to live in the now, in the same paradigm of thinking about the means as the end, what I'm saying is I have to live right now for the now, because the only thing that I have right now, is this moment, and the means itself is the end. But that's a subtle form of heresy. That's some subtle form of the lack of a belief that the world is created for a certain intention. That Bereshis bara b'shvil, that the world was created because of, which means for an intention of, that there was a purpose in creation, and the purpose is that there's a process to get to a certain result. When a person says, I'm living in the means, and the means is the end in itself, and the now is in the end in itself, then it means that I don't think that there's a tachlis. I'm not living with a sense that there is a tachlis, that there is an end. The other way of looking at it, and it seems to be the same idea, but it's actually much more profound and much connected to also the idea of that there is a tachlis, that there is a result, there is an end game, is to recognize that the tachlis is revealed in the means. That the end is revealed in the means. Not that the means is the end, but the other way around. Actually, the end, which is the future, becomes revealed in the present. The end is becoming revealed within the means, which translates is that when I'm living in the present moment and I'm saying I want to be in this present moment in the means because it's still in the process of getting someplace, as we're getting closer, in fact, to the end, to the tachlis, the end, starts to become revealed within the means. So again, to say it a little bit differently, when you look at this present moment, it can either be the effect of the past, or it could be pulled by the future, which means we're drawing light from the future into the present, then the present is being pulled into the future. That's a different way of looking at the present moment. Now, of course, that present moment will also have the past and the future, but the way we're seeing this present is that not that it's just the means is the end, but the end becomes revealed within the means. And this is what the revealing of the teachings of the Baal Shem Tov, the teachings of Chassidus in general, was that since it's connected to the Or of Mashiach, the Or of Geula, to the light of Mashiach, the light of redemption, so as we're getting closer to this time period, more of the future becomes revealed in the present. That it's not just the means is revealed as the end, but the opposite, but the end becomes more revealed in the means. Same thing also when we talk about individually, when we talk about as a person, as a tzaddik, a person thinks of himself as a tzaddik, we're saying that Sof Yisrael Asas Tshuva, at the end, every soul will reach a state of perfection, a state of tshuva, a return, and a state of their perfection, of their wholeness. Lo yidach ben nidach, and no souls will fall away. And eventually, with this incarnation or the future incarnation, other reincarnations of souls, eventually the soul will reach its perfection. So as we're getting closer to the time of the tachlis, as we're getting closer to the time of the end, we're getting to Yom Kol Shabbos, to the day that everything will be Shabbos, just like Shabbos in a microcosm is a metaphor of this process, that there's 6 days a week that we strive and we earn and we try to get someplace. And then we say Kol Malach Nechasuya on Shabbos, that all the work that you've done has already been achieved on Shabbos, which Tzadikim say is not only the work that you've done physically, but Ki'ilu Kol Malach Nechasuya, as if everything is done, also spiritually, which means you achieved your maximum potential on Shabbos, which is that the end is revealed in that means, in that microcosm of that Shabbos, certainly in the larger picture, in the macro picture of the entire process of creation. There's the 6,000 years of the process to get to the 7,000 year, with this Yom Shekul Shabbos, which is the day of Shabbos, which is the perfection, the wholeness. So as we're getting closer to that time period, we're drawing the light of the Geula, the light of redemption, the light of perfection, the light of wholeness, the light of that everything's already arrived in its place. In the end, and the Tachlis is becoming more revealed into the present. And that's what we mean when we say, or people say, the deeper meaning of this, when it says that a person is a tzaddik, what this means is not to say that the means is an end and I'm already perfect the way I am, and therefore there's nothing for me to do. It's the reason why I'm perfect, the reason why I'm a tzaddik, is because there's a revealing of my future potential self that's drawn into the present moment. The perfection that I will become is revealed already in the imperfection that I am. But I'm still imperfect maybe on some level, and therefore I have to work on my perfection. So we're talking about not only on the level of the soul, which the soul is always perfect and the neshama is always perfect. That's one way of thinking that every person's a tzaddik, is to say that I'm connecting to my lakai neshama shesatabi, I'm connecting to the soul that you've given to me, which is tahir, which is the level of atzilus, the level of perfection and wholeness. And I'm saying that's what I'm connecting to. But at my own level of my consciousness, I'm living not necessarily on a level that I'm a tzaddik. I'm living on a state of imperfection. Or you could say that it's even deeper, that even the level of place of your imperfection, the place where you're striving, the place where you're moving, the place that you have to yearn to become and in your state of becoming, and eventually you strive every single moment, every single day to grow higher and deeper every single moment. Even in that place, because you're revealing the future in the present, because there's a revelation of the future tachlis of my soul where it will get to its perfection. In my all levels of soul, not in my perfected self that doesn't need, not in my yechida, my highest level of soul that doesn't need perfection, that's always whole and always perfect and never soiled, and no matter what I do and how I do it, it doesn't really affect it. But even the place where the soul has the places of the possibility of blemish and imperfection, which is the lower level of the souls, even that state where I am now, which is my becoming state, even that is already perfect because I'm drawing from the future into the present. And that's a very different way of understanding it. Because then it's not the absence of desire and the absence of longing. It's not the absence of that of moving forward and avoida and trying to get to the place. It's just there's a revealing of that future into the present. And as we're getting into the revealing of this, of the Tachlis Shemaim Haaretz, this is why we're entering into an age. If you think about the world, what's happening in the world on a physical level, on a very empirical and practical level, with the advance of science and technology, we're actually entering into an age that it's an instantaneous age, which means that there used to be an age, certainly years ago, and more than 100 years ago, 200 years ago, between 1740 and 1840 and 1940, before all those time periods, there was a process, and then there was the tachlis, that to end. For example, if you want to send a person a piece of mail, so you have to write the letter, and then you have to put it in the mailbox, and then it took a few days until the mail got to the other person. Okay, that's process and eventually tachlis. But as we're getting closer to the revealing of the tachlis Shemaim Haaretz, we're revealing of the future of the tachlis of the end. The time period between the tahalich and the tachlis is much more quicker. It's more instantaneously. The time period between process and the result is much quicker. Today, with a click of the button, you can have that same process that took you for a long period of time until it finally materialized. It can happen instantaneously. And now today, with the advance of higher level technology, you can speak and it creates visuals. This is like the instantaneous idea of creation. Why is it revealed? Why is this technology revealed in this world? Why are we seeing this revelation in this world? Because this is a revealing of a spiritual dynamic that's coming down into this world. The spiritual dynamic is, as we're reaching the Tachlis Shemaim Haaretz, we're reaching the end of the process reality. We're reaching the Tachlis, which is the end result, which is not the process reality. As we're nearing to the end result, which is not a process dynamic, which is a different type of paradigm, more of the undoing of the process is taking place. Or at least instantaneously, the processes are taking much quicker. That's a revelation that's happening on a practical, physical level. But this is because it's happening on a spiritual level. And therefore, what's important for us to think about in terms of our own life is how does that relate to our personal life? Because it's true that there's a revelation on a big cosmic level of this instantaneous reality. It's becoming revealed because the tachlis is becoming revealed in creation. The end is becoming revealed within the means right now as we're living. Therefore, means takes much quicker to get to ends. But then we have to ask ourselves a question. That means that there's a spiritual opening within our own consciousness, with our own soul, that allows for this type of possibility. That maybe years ago it took a longer process in order to get to a place of certain destination in our lives. That we have to work really hard to get to the place in order to get to some type of level. Now we have access, because the tachlis is being revealed within the present. Now we have access to reveal the Tzadik within us. Not only the Tzadik within us, which is our soul, which is always perfect. There's always a Tzadik, even before we come into this world and after we enter this world. And no matter what we do in this world, there's a sense of perfection that exists within our yechida, within our deepest level of our soul. But even in the place where there is imperfection, and the place that we can fall and we can stumble, and Shavi Yipat Tzadik will come, and the Tzadik can fall down and even get up, and specifically get up because he can fall down. Even in that place, as we're coming to eventually to the revealing of the eventual, the revealing of the tachlis of Shemaim Haaretz, the revealing of the tzaddik, that we are a tzaddik, and the world is perfect, and the world is in harmony, and the world is in a state of perfection, and there is no longer any disease, and there is no longer any war, and everyone's living in a state of Molar Ezdeas Hashem, that the world becomes filled with the knowledge of Hashem. As we're entering closer to the tachlis, more of that is accessible to us in our own personal avodah as well, not just in the world of science, not just the world of technology. That's just the effects of the spiritual realm that's opening up, of the cosmic spiritual realm that's opening up, that gives us the possibility to reveal the tzaddik from the future that is already present within our now, that's pulling the present into our future, and therefore being pulled from the future, from being pulled from the future. That's what it means. And that's why this type of avodah, this type of spiritual work becomes revealed specifically with the teachings of the Baal Shem Tov, the or that's connected to the or of Mashiach. And as we're getting closer and closer to the footsteps of Mashiach, we're getting closer to the or of Agula, the light of revelation, of the redemption, of the state of perfection, when there is no longer a process and the end result, but everything's revealed in its end in itself. There's a higher level of avoid. That's why the works that every person has to do avoid gashmi is a physical work, and the idea of that every single action becomes meaningful. It's not just a means to an end, but the end is revealed in the means, and therefore every single thing that a person is doing, I'm not just doing it for another purpose. I'm eating so I should be healthy, so I can learn, but the fact that I'm eating itself is a holy act, and every single thing that I'm doing, but in personal avoid that we're talking about in our own personal lives, in terms of our own spiritual development, our own levels of our consciousness, this is the recognition that the future of who we will become is already revealed in the becoming of our state in the present moment. And that's what it really means, that every Yid is a real tzaddik. Have a wonderful week.